Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Ball and Crane. You know what they say, good things come to those who wait. You guys have been waiting for a couple of weeks now for the next episode to launch on The Ball and Crane. And I'm super excited to share the next guest on the show, head coach Krista Gerlich, Lady Raider basketball head coach, also won that 1993 championship under Marcia Sharp. So I am really excited, grateful to bring you guys head coach Krista Gerlich to talk about mental health. Coach Gerlich, thank you so very much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to visit with you today.
So let's jump right in. You started about to start your fourth season as head coach of Lady Raider basketball. And I was looking at the timeline, and you really jumped in at a time where there were a lot of different changes and lots of adversity going on. Coach Stallings was on her way out, and we were right in the middle of COVID. So what was it like for you coming back into this time of a lot of adversity?
Yeah. So, number one, I've always dreamt of coming back to Texas Tech as the Lady Raider basketball coach. And never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that it was going to be the way it was.
Yeah.
For it to be August of 2020 in the middle of a pandemic, taking over a program that was broken, and probably at the lowest state it's ever been at, which was heartbreaking to me as a former Lady Raider. And then just all the things that I encountered and, all the things that I had, it was just crazy. It was just a crazy time, crazy time. And I will say that, like, even through those trials and how tough that year was, the entire time that I was battling all of those things, I would reflect back on the multiple times that I did not get this position, that I did not get this job, and thinking about what I was doing at the time and the experiences and the growth and the lessons that I was learning during those, 15 years that I was told no, all the things I was learning to prepare me for this. And I believe I remember saying to Kirby in my interview, and I think he took it maybe as being a little arrogant at the time, but I was just stating my case. And I told him that I really felt like at that point in time of Lady Raider basketball and of my career, that I felt like I was the only one that could come in and fix it. Yeah. And I didn't mean that to come across as arrogant or whatever. I just meant, like, I know where this program has been. I know what it can be. And I knew that I could come in and get the support that I needed from Lady Raider Nation to turn that program around and to start building it back up. So lots of trials, lots of tribulations, lots of, I know we're going to talk about mental health throughout it, and not just for our players, but for our coaching staff and for me. It's been quite an adventure. It's been quite a journey, but I love it. Like, I love how it's stacking together, and we're going to have a great story to tell.
Yeah. I think I appreciate you calling it for what it is. Way back when it felt like it was very broken. And I think a couple themes that stick out to me is there's this resilience about you, and there's this fearlessness. Like, hey, I can kind of speak from experience. I can talk about adversity and things that I've been through. And I feel like I'm going to be the best fit to help rebuild this program and get buy-in from fans. Cause it was a time where fans were, I can speak for myself, like, very burned out. Like, oh my gosh, when are we going to find somebody to really change the culture of Lady Raider basketball?
Right.
So I really appreciate you speaking to that. And then this mental health piece too. Like, what comes to mind, and what was the mental health of Lady Raider basketball like stepping in August of 2020?
Yeah, it was tough. It was really tough. It was tough for the current roster that we had. And I tried to approach that very differently than I would have had it been a normal coaching change. Like, a normal coaching change to me, even I mean, you have a coaching change for a reason, right? I mean,
Sure.
It's either because the coach left on good terms to do something, to follow a different dream, or it's to come in and fix something because it's not going the right direction. And so, to me, if that had been a normal coaching change in May, April, you go in and you do evaluate the players, and you make changes that are going to fit your roster and fit your philosophy and fit your style, those types of things. And in August of 2020, that wasn't an option.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go in and evaluate it and say, hey, this person is not you're not going to fit with what we're doing. But I wasn't going to find anybody to replace that.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, it wasn't that team's fault that happened when it happened.
Yeah.
So I really took the approach of, I'm going to manage this locker room the best I can. And I'm going to try to help these kids the best I can have a good experience as Lady Raiders, as good as they can have, with us trying to win as many basketball games as we can. And, I think we were probably 50-50 on both sides. I think I think the kids had a better experience, but I don't think it was still the experience they were looking for. And we didn't win as many basketball games as I certainly wanted to win, especially in my first year. And so it was a hard year to go through. And, but I felt like we had a lot of accomplishments. I think we had to look at the positives that occurred. And then at the end of that season, I met with every single player, and we had a very frank and candid conversation, and changes happened, but we helped them. And that's the difference. I think there's times when you can go in and turn over a roster, and some coaches go in and they're like, you're not for me, you're not for me, you're not for me.
Yeah.
And then I took the approach of, you might not be what's best for the philosophy moving forward, but how can I help you go find a place that is? So every kid in that locker room that year that left, that either we had a part in or they chose themselves, we helped them. We helped them graduate. We helped them get the right hours that they needed. We called schools for them even.
Wow.
And there's not very many coaches that would do that.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm just saying that I was just trying to be very compassionate and also very empowering in the piece of, it wasn't these kids' fault. Let's try to help them make the best of it. And it was tough because it's never easy for somebody to hear that, hey, you don't fit.
Yeah.
And it's never easy to hear, hey, we need to move you along or whatever. But we did. And I had to tell my staff, I was like, y'all need to stay off social media for the next couple of days, because people are going to question what we're doing, because they haven't been inside our locker room. They don't know our philosophy, those types of things. It's just, it's a lot of pieces. There's a lot of moving parts, but it's all worked out. I've actually had several of those players that were in that locker room reach out to me over the past couple of years and just check in. And I've done the same for them, and really proud of the direction some of them have gone and accomplished, and the accomplishments they've made. And it's worked out. I mean, it's worked out, and it's still working out, but it was one of the toughest years I've ever been through. And not to really say woe is me or whatever, but there is a piece of it that people don't know, for me personally, that I think we could talk about, like for mental health, for sure.
Of course.
But, we have those conversations with that team about, you might not be a good fit. Like, we need to move on. And like 2 days later, I have a breast cancer surgery.
Golly.
Complete reconstructive breast cancer surgery. And then I was out for 2 months, recovering, but working from my chair and doing all this stuff. So, and that is not for people to go, oh, poor thing, whatever. Like, that's not what I'm just saying, like, there's so much more to the story than people know.
Yeah.
And for us to be where we are today, God is good. I mean, God is so good, and he's helped me. He's helped our program. He's helped so many things. So it's a lot, but it's going to make, like I said, our journey and our story is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I think it already is. And I can say, as a fan and just seeing what you've built over the last 4 years, we can feel it. Like, there's a culture shift. And I want to come back to philosophy. What is your philosophy? How do you incorporate mental health? I'm sure a lot of it probably from personal experience. Like, you have the street cred. You can speak to a lot of what these players are experiencing.
Yes.
So what is that philosophy, and how do you incorporate mental health with your team?
Yeah. So So my philosophy in general as a coach is obviously we want to win. I mean, we do. We want to win championships. I want to win I want to win a championship as a coach. Like I did it as a player. I want every one of my players to have the same experience I did as a coach and as a player. Maybe not this exact same experience, but the opportunity for it, because my experience was great. It wasn't always fantastic, but the end result, the stair steps and the accomplishments that we made throughout the 4 years as me as a player was fantastic. And I want those same experiences or those same opportunities for my players. So first of all, it is about fit. It is about culture. It is about recruiting the right kids to this program. And the Lady Raider program is unique. I mean, it just is. I mean, Texas Tech is unique. Lubbock is unique. West Texas is unique, like all the things, right? And we have to sell that. And I'm not saying that you have to be from West Texas to appreciate that. You do not. But I certainly think when we recruit people to come in, they need to come experience it for themselves to be able to see what we're talking about, because there's so many naysayers out there, and they have so many people in their ears. It's just, if we can get them to campus and we can get them submerged in Lady Raider Nation and just in our environment, whatever, like, then they understand. They have a better understanding compared to what they're hearing from people that have never been here. And that's the negative recruiting that we get, right? So the philosophy piece is recruiting the right kids and the right fit, and building those relationships, and then really understanding the kids that you're bringing in and meeting them where they are.
That's huge.
So when I was a player, we didn't call it mental health. I don't know what we called it, but we didn't call it mental health, but it was still there. You know, it was definitely there. And now it's definitely labeled, and we take a lot of pride in it. And we definitely recognize it, we acknowledge it. But I think that the philosophy for me, to go back to that particular question, is that it's bigger than basketball. And basketball is our avenue. Basketball is our vehicle that we use to accomplish these goals and dreams and all these things. But the mental health piece of it is huge, because that's one of the reasons that I coach in college, is the transition that young women go through from 17 to 22, 23, 24 now.
Monumental.
And there's that transition is hard for young women. I mean, there's so many things that they're battling and that they're trying to do. And there's even the hormone piece of it. Like, let's just take the chemical balance, right? That is ridiculous. All these things that we're dealing with. And so I really try to get to know these kids, and we don't shy away from kids that have had stressful times or a stressful past or a what's the word? A difficult journey. Like, I'm not one of those like, oh, I'm staying away from her because she had some mental health issues at, X university. Like, no, like, we want to get to know them. And if they fit maybe what we need on the court, and then they fit the characteristics that we want in our Lady Raiders, and then they have this piece, like, to me, that we have, what I love most about Tech is that we have the resources to help with those things. And if we can help those kids manage their mental health and improve it and grow it and learn how to deal with it with the small window that they're with us, we could save their life. And that's bigger than basketball.
It is bigger than basketball.
Yeah. So again, and I know I'm long-winded, so please cut me off if you need me.
You're good. I'm just sitting here. Oh no, I love it.
I can talk forever, but one of the things that we have done as a staff is, number one, I've recruited and hired staff that have that same philosophy. And then also I've hired people who are experts in that field, to be on our coaching staff, not necessarily in our support staff, to be on our coaching staff that can help with these things. Because those relationships that all of us have with our players are instrumental. And getting those kids to open up to us, getting those kids to want to grow, to want to learn, to want to, work their way through their issues that they have. And so we hired a director of player development spot. We made a position, and it was director of player development and social media recruiting. So we added 2 little things to it, because they're both super important. Those are probably the 2 biggest areas of change since I played.
Yeah.
And even since I coached, here, it's been 17, 18 years ago now, on Coach Sharp's staff, is the social media recruiting, because that wasn't a thing back then. And then the mental health piece of it.
Yep.
And so the director of player development, the player development is the whole player.
Yeah.
It's not, clearly we want to develop them on the court, there's no doubt, but it's also off the court. How can we develop them into being a better person and helping them flourish in their own right, whether that be professionally, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, even, all those things. So I was able to hire Eric DeRue, who has come in and has just taken our staff by storm, in my opinion. I think it's been such a great hire. I'm not going to lie. We hired him because of his social media presence and the fact that he could help us recruiting wise, social media piece of it. Little did I know that also he came with a psychology degree.
That's right.
And that was huge for him. That's a huge piece for him. And he hit the ground running. And he came to me after his first year, and he just sat back his first year. He was on go, don't get me wrong, but he sat back and watched what we were doing. And he watched all the struggles, if you will, that I was having as the head coach and leader of this program, of things that I wanted to get done that I just didn't have the manpower, or I didn't have the organizational skills or the background of it, whatever, that he saw that I needed help in. And so he came to me and said, look, I'm recognizing all these things that you want to do for these girls, but you don't have enough time. And you need to win basketball games, and you need to connect with the donors and the boosters and the fans, and you need to make these appearances. And he goes, you need somebody working behind the scenes, keeping all these other things going the direction that you want. So he and his staff that we have, our GAs and things like that, they created a growth guide, and we called it the Ready Raider Growth Guide. And it directly affects mental health, but it also directly affects team bonding, team building, how we can relate to our players more individually, and how we can get the most out of them, and how to coach them even. And so he laid out a 12-month guide.
Wow.
That is, he's super organized, clearly.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
Yes, which is great. But it lays out month by month what we want to accomplish to help grow our players. And so obviously there's months that are less intense, so like the month of August, they're not here, most of them aren't here. So that's very much a preparation stage for us to know that when they get on campus, this is what we're going to do hit the ground running and get them going. So one of the things that we do is basically like a personality test.
Yes.
And there's a million of them, right? And I should know the one we use, but I'm not going to be able to tell it to you off the top of my head.
I should remember. I talked to Jordan Merritt, and she talked about this.
Yes, yes. So we do that. So they take these tests. The coaches do too. Everybody in our program, everybody in our staff, on our team, everybody takes this test.
Yeah.
And it makes you, it basically tells you what kind of learner you are, what type of, how you handle criticism, how you handle praise, like how all these things. And it's fantastic. And then we sit down with our sports psychologist on campus that we have in our athletic department, which again, I want to give a shout out to Kirby and to our athletic department for understanding and recognizing how important mental health is. Awesome. And that they have hired not 1, not 2, but 3 full-time sports psychologists for the athletic department.
That's great.
And then they have GAs within that as well. So we sit down with our sports psychologists and individually with our, we probably take 2 players a week after they've done these tests.
Yeah.
and she goes over their results with our coaching staff and our support staff so that we know how to coach these kids and that we know how to communicate with them.
Yeah.
So to give you an example is that, so you might, okay, and this is just but let's just take Bailey and Jordan Merritt, for example.
Yeah.
And I have no idea. I haven't even seen their results yet, but like, Bailey, we can probably be extra like blunt, very straightforward.
Sure.
Like she wants direct feedback. And this is hypothetical. This is not, I'm not giving out any secrets. This is just hypothetical. But we could probably give her straightforward response, straightforward. This is what I need you to do. You're not doing it in the heat of the moment, blah, blah, blah. Jordan Merritt, I might have to go give her like 30 seconds to a minute to decompress. So like in a game, heat of the moment, she blows a defensive coverage, something like that. I take her out of the game. She knows it.
Yeah.
She knows it. So instead of me like hammering her, she goes to the end of the bench. She gets her water. She sits down. She decompresses. And then one of our coaches goes and says, okay, let's talk about what just happened.
Yeah.
Because so she can hear it. Whereas if I just get her right when she comes off the bench, but off the sidelines, but that happens, right? If I just get her, she's not going to hear a word I say.
Yeah. In one ear, out the other.
She's going to get madder about it, right? Or more flustered or whatever. And to be honest, I need her to get right back focused so I can get her back in the game.
Yeah.
So every kid on our roster, we do that.
Brilliant.
And then we have, and I'm going to do this really fast so you can't really see it. We have this little cheat sheet.
I love it. And you got that on the sideline during the game.
On the sideline.
Yeah.
On the sideline. And so Drew had this, and he would strategically, because he's going to know how to handle Coach Gerlich too. Because Coach Gerlich's in the heat of it. And Coach Gerlich is mad at a referee, and I'm like, I don't want to be hearing it when I'm talking to this referee. But so he has to be strategic about how he gives me the information. Yeah. And so there were times last year that we would come out of halftime and he would say to me, hey, so-and-so, like Bailey's 0 for 5 on her last 5 shots. You might run a play for her to open the half to get her going because we need her to be going.
Sure.
And she needs a confidence booster, or just something like that. And again, hypothetical, but that's how he would manipulate that. And that would help me go, oh my gosh, you're right. Like, we've got to get Bailey involved, and whoever, like somebody's not going to the boards and they're rebounders for us. Like, yeah, okay, let's positively find a way to get them going. That's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. And it's so intentional too. And I would bet that nobody watching knows that this is going on. Like, there's all these moving parts, like you said.
Yeah. So everybody that, all of the armchair coaches, that are up in the stands that are mad at us for having those huddles, with coaches before we go and talk to, that's some of the stuff going on in that
That's
huddle.
what's happening.
Like, it's not just, what are we going to run at this play? Like, it's like, how do we get this kid involved, or how do we, get her back focused, or how do we get this kid going, whatever it might be. So I'm kind of all over the place, but that's what we're doing in the off season.
Yeah.
Is learning about our kids and how best to coach them. And then also I'm learning about our staff members and how best to get them to do what I need them to do, and for all of their strengths and weaknesses to correlate without offending them, which that, but also helping them to reach their goals.
Yeah.
Because, I've got some people on my staff that want to be a head coach. So I need to get them some experience in either running a drill, running a part of practice, going out with me to speak at an event, getting them some experience with the budget, all of these things. And I just think that growth guide that we've got aligns us. And so it keeps us on track. The other thing, I could talk about that thing the whole time. So
I love it. I know. I love it.
Well, so the other thing that it does is, like, right when we get our kids back on campus, we have multiple team building things. So instead of Coach Gerlich, because I love that stuff. Yeah. And I'm pretty creative at times, but as my experiences have become more and more and more, and and my responsibilities, it's different when I was at West Texas A&M and it was just me and a grad assistant and we were
Yeah, a
doing
little
it
smaller
all.
scale.
Yes. And then we were at UTA and I had a little bit more help, but I was still super involved and da-da-da. Now I can't be as involved in the groundwork of developing what these team building activities are. Like I might get an idea and like literally I get ideas in the middle of the night and my staff will wake up to a 2 a.m. text that says, hey, we need to take the kids and do a blah, blah, blah obstacle course,
2
and it's like,
a.m. thoughts. Yeah.
yes. And I mean, that's how I operate.
Sure.
And so then the next day we start doing that. But this growth guide helps orchestrate that and develop that. And that kind of takes it off my plate so that I can focus on other things besides team building and this and that. So it aligns that. One of the things that I think is the coolest thing that we do that is super hard to get done, and our kids have to be intentional about it and they have to be bought in to do it, is in the first 2 months that they're on campus, we challenge them to have a dinner or a lunch or a coffee or a breakfast with each member on the team one-on-one. Like not in a group setting, not whatever. Like I want the point guard to take the center out and have lunch or dinner or something and sit down, put your phones down and have a conversation.
Just talk.
So they can get to know one another. And then they also, another month, they have to do that with each staff member on our team. I mean, on our staff, which is really hard for them to find. I mean, we have 15 players, so they got to find 14 opportunities.
Challenge accepted. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And then they've got to find, our staff is like, whatever. So I have to have, they're going to come to me. I've got to make 14 opportunities or 15 opportunities to sit down. But I love that, and we try to have more than that. I mean, I have more than one-on-one interaction with them but it needs to be not just watching film. Like I have kids in here watching film with me. I have, one-on-ones where we need to talk about goals and those types of things. Obviously on the court, I had that, but to go have a lunch with them, just one-on-one, you and me, and we're just talking about life,
That's awesome.
And yeah, I love that piece of it, but it is time consuming.
Sure. Have to be intentional.
It is difficult. Yep. It is difficult, but it's huge to what we're trying to do. And one of my biggest things is, and probably how much I've grown as a coach, is understanding where kids come from and the shoes they're walking in compared to the shoes I'm walking in or have walked in, because it's not the same.
Yeah.
And I think I actually, and even to go back to me saying that the 3 times previous that I didn't get this job, the things I was learning, one of the things I learned the most was at West Texas A&M when I had a player that was a single mom, and I I chose to recruit her. I chose to bring her to WT, and I chose to help her. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. And I'm going to tell you that in the end of the day, it didn't end the way I wanted it to. But at the same time, I know from the time I brought her there to that piece, she grew so much and I helped her so much. And I say we helped her so much. But she helped me as a coach, and even being able to relate that to our players. So for instance, one day she missed a spring workout, and our team was going to be really, really good. And they were very committed, and my team was mad. And this was about the 3rd, 4th, 5th strike for this kid.
Oh boy.
And and she missed a spring workout and nobody really knew where she was. And our team was like, we're done with her. Like, and I was like, okay, I get it. Me too. I'm tired. I'm tired of putting in all this effort too. I said, however, let's find her and see what's happening. Well, so come to find out, she wasn't able to pick her daughter. She didn't have the person in place to pick her daughter up from daycare. And then she had gotten a call from her own mom that was not constructive, was not helpful. It was really very heartbreaking, and she was basically having a breakdown. And So two of my kids, I said, I took two of my seniors and I said, I want you to go find her. You two go find her and find out what's going on. And they went and found her and heard all these things that she was going through. And we came back and they brought her back and we all sat down and we talked for a few minutes with her in the room. And then I asked her to step out and I said, guys, who do y'all call when you've had a terrible practice and Coach Gerlich's been all in your face and blah, blah, blah. And, and you're mad at the world and you're mad at Coach Gerlich and you leave, who do you call? And most of them in that room said, I call my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah. And you bitch about Coach Gerlich.
Yeah.
And she bitches right back. And she's like, that lady, da, da, da. And I'm like, you have somebody on your side.
Sure.
Right? And I get it. That's part of it. And I was like, who does she call? Because she didn't have that luxury.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and not only that, but not only can she not call her mom and talk about that, but she's got a daughter wanting that same response from her.
Yeah.
She was she had some needs and she had to meet those needs for her daughter, yet wanting to call her own mom and get some
get
support.
That validation, affirmation. Sure.
Yeah. And so that opened those kids' eyes tremendously. It opened my eyes of it's not that you give them a free pass. Mm-hmm. That's not what we do. You have standards and everybody has to meet a standard, but everybody can get there in a different manner.
Absolutely.
And I think that probably helped me as a coach more than anything to show a little more grace mm-hmm. in the heat of the moment to some kids. And again, not give them free passes and not let them get away with things and but everybody's just raised different and it's frustrating. I mean, it's frustrating. It was frustrating when I was a player because I was like, class isn't an option I went to class.
Yeah.
Not everybody had that same mindset, so I would get upset with them, because you just don't think that way.
Yeah.
But I do think that if you can meet them where they are and really try to help them and show a little more grace along the way, you can grow them.
Yeah.
And also get them where you want them to go. And, I mean, we had that some this past year with our mm-hmm. team. I mean, and I don't have to speak directly to that, but I think that our kids understand that Coach Gerlich and her staff love them and love them where they are. And we're not going to let them use us and take advantage of us.
Yeah.
But we certainly are going to be there to help them. And it might be like, you know what? You don't need to practice today. Mm-hmm. You need to go take a mental health day, if that's what you want to call it. You need to go take care of these other things. Like, I'm not going to get anything out of you in practice anyway. And you're probably just going to frustrate all of us.
No sense in trying to fight it.
Right. Go get this straight in your life. And then we'll figure out how to make that up to your teammates and to me and to the team.
Yeah.
And you know what? It works out. So it's not for everybody, but at the same time, like, I just feel like our kids get it. I don't think anybody can say that our staff, is here just for one thing, and that's just to win ball games, and I've said this before and I'll say it again. Like, I want to win championships. We're going to win championships. Mm-hmm. But my goal is not to win championships. It's to create champions. And they will win championships when they become champions, and they got to become champions in life, and that's what my initial goal is.
Yeah. What you say is so congruent to what I have heard and talked about with many of your players, past and present. Good. It's this person first mentality. And I think, like you said, even when there's adversity or when there's negative things happening, society in general, I think, sucks at really latching onto that without diving into the context of, okay, well, why did this happen? How do we take time and understand what's going on behind that versus just reprimanding somebody for bad behavior or whatever it is that's going on that we don't like. So whether you acknowledge it or not or recognize it, I think you're a huge part of this buy-in and getting players to understand. And I'll quote one player who said, she told me I was a good player. That's why I came to Texas Tech. I knew I was good. She knew I was good. She wanted to develop me as a human and as a woman and as a champion. And I'm curious how many, like if you have 10 different coaches at D1 schools. How many of those coaches have that same philosophy or mindset, would you say?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to speak to all of, I mean, I couldn't tell you because I'm not in their
Yeah.
program, but I will say that, I've, I've, I've been a part of some programs, and I've witnessed, and I've obviously been a part of some conversations and whatnot. And I've talked to a lot of players, and, um, it's about the win. It's about the
Mhm.
win for a lot of people. It's not
Mhm.
about the win for the person.
Yeah.
It's more about the win, just the win. I want to get, and I just can't operate that way. That's not how I was raised. That's not why I became a coach.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's so many more things, I mean, that basketball can teach you. And even when I say basketball, I'm not even talking about the round ball, whatever. I'm talking about
Mhm.
just the sport, the experience, the athletics in general.
Yeah.
There's so many things that it teaches you, and that I've had to rely on in my own, journey, in my own
Yeah.
personal journey, that I've had to go, man, I've done hard things before, Krista. Like, you can do this, you
Yeah.
can do this. And whether it was fighting cancer or fighting for my marriage, parenting my kids, it's hard. It's hard, and everybody goes through something different. So,
Yeah.
just trying to equip them the best they can to be champions in life.
Yeah. It's beautiful, and I feel like you can see it on the court. I feel like over the past 4 years, you can see this cohesiveness and this culture that you are developing, and I know you've got a great support staff around you. You've got players who have bought in, but it's really this person first mentality. Yes, let's continue to grow you as a player, but let's grow you as a human and get you to where you want to go in life. Just be successful in life.
100%. Yeah. And thank you for saying that. I hope that what people can see, because I do think too, I think that's what Lady Raiders are all about. And I
Yeah.
feel like, that's why Lady Raider Nation is so supportive and so encouraging, is because they see these young women as people.
Yeah.
And
There's an
and they
authenticity to it. It just
right,
feels so authentic.
right, exactly. So, yeah. And I would be, remiss if I didn't say, like, it's about that phone call that I get, 10 years down the line, that says, coach, I'm going into labor. I'm about to have my first kid, or
Cool.
man, I got the job. I got it. I got it. Or, he asked the question, whatever,
Yeah.
I mean, whatever it might be. Like that, those are the moments I live for. And
Yeah.
even the moments of, you know, coach, I got this terrible diagnosis, and I need your help. I need your prayer. I need your support. And I don't know, how am I going to get through this? And
Yeah.
that encouragement that we give. I mean, those are the moments that I live for.
Yeah. Where does that come from? And how do you continue to instill that? Like, how do you do that? I don't know that that comes naturally to a lot of people, but even like on your bio on the tech page, like there are quotes from players, past and present, and coaches who just, they talk about you, but not just as a coach, but just who you are as a woman and just the traits that make you so admirable. Where does
So,
that come
well,
from?
thank you for that. I mean, first and foremost, I mean, I have a great relationship with, Lord Jesus Christ, my
Yeah.
Savior, and He definitely has loved me through, my lowest moments, and continues to help build me up. But the way I was raised, I mean, and I would be, I mean, my mom and dad obviously are my heroes, and, there were certainly times with my dad being my coach in high school and stuff, that I thought the world was ending,
Yeah.
but the things that I learned from him, wow. And then just the love and encouragement that my mom gives me on a daily basis, even to this day, she is my biggest fan. She
Yeah.
is the Lady Raiders' biggest fan. I mean, all of my players call her Mimi. I just love
That's
it.
awesome.
It's wonderful. But they just raised me that way. I mean, and I would say too, I just spoke at, Levelland's convocation just last week, and
Yeah.
I told these teachers and the staff members the same thing. Like, I'm a product of my environment and
Mm.
my raising. And I am from West Texas, and I
Yeah.
am born and bred and so proud. And it's a village. So I went through every school that I had gone. I mean, I went through 5 different schools in my K through 12, uh,
Yeah. Wow.
lifetime. And I had memories of teachers or administrators or staff members that influenced me or molded me in some way, taught me a lesson in some way. And it's the people of West Texas that grow you.
Yeah.
And everywhere I look, I just am reminded of a lesson that I learned along the way, or an expectation that I needed to live up to, or a value that I was taught. And all of those people have made me who I am today. And I think that's why when I talked to Kirby this last time to try to
Yeah.
be hired, I was so adamant about, I know what the people of West Texas want in their
Yeah.
lady basketball. And, we can get it to them, and we can bring that to them. And it's going to be amazing for these people that we select as Lady Raiders,
Yeah.
for them to go through as well. So it's definitely, I'm a product of my environment, and that is West Texas in general, my family, obviously, and God for sure.
Yeah. I appreciate, again, there's this authenticity about it that I think just you as a human bring, but also it's very transparent on the court as well, and what you're bringing to the team. And so I so appreciate it. It's a beautiful thing to witness as a fan and as somebody who supports women's sports. It's great. I think it's the
Thank
change
you.
that Lady Raider basketball needed.
Yeah.
Really
It's been
quickly.
fun.
Yeah. I would love to hear your thoughts quickly about NIL, social media, the influences those have played.
Yeah.
Times have changed for sure.
Yeah, for sure. That's a whole nother thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know that I was necessarily for NIL when it came about.
Yep.
I don't know a coach that really was.
Mhm.
Um, but much like Kirby and Texas Tech, which I appreciate this again. And I know I keep saying his name, but I really think he's a great leader. And I think that he's trying to help every sport on campus be successful.
Yeah.
And I think the thing about NIL is, like, we can't fight it. Like,
It's
I mean,
here.
that's where I had to be. Like, it's here. So how can we use it to our advantage and help us get at the forefront of this? And I
Mhm.
feel like Texas Tech has done that, and they've done such a great job. I mean, Amy Hurd has done a fantastic job of leading the way, of educating us and making sure that if there's something positive that we can use in this to help us in the recruiting realm, or just building up our programs, then let's use it.
Yeah.
And so I think I think it's great that kids can be recognized for their name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
I mean, they sacrifice a lot of things to represent Texas Tech and to represent the Lady Raiders. And I think it's okay for them to be rewarded financially for that.
Sure.
And I really commend the young ladies and the young men that are doing it the right way, and that are
Mhm.
doing it, that take it seriously, in not just gimme, 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 but it's more of, hey, I recognize that you want my name, image, and likeness to represent you. So I'm going to take a lot of pride in that and represent you in the best way possible.
Yeah.
And that's the way I want it to be
Mhm.
used, is that these kids need to understand that it's a responsibility,
Yeah.
and your image is going to be reflected by how you handle this opportunity. And
Which
if
can
you
be
have,
hard for older
yeah,
teens, like younger 20s, to understand that concept.
yes, yes. And so I think so that's part of our growth guide as well, is
Yeah.
educating. So, like, again, Amy Hurd and the NIL piece on campus do a great job of it, but we try to back it up too with even more just experiences and expectations. And hey, this is what this is about. When you are being paid for your name, image, and likeness, you have a responsibility. And
Yeah.
what do you want your brand to look like?
Yeah.
And I think, again, that goes back to our recruiting and who we're recruiting. And because there are some kids that I will not recruit because of the way their name, image, and likeness is going. And I'm
Sure.
like, I don't want that name, image, and likeness in our program,
Yeah. Doesn't quite align.
Right, exactly. But then there are some that I'm like, oh my gosh, we could build it even more. Like,
Yeah.
there's a couple of kids right now that we're recruiting that
Yeah.
are so exciting, and that our Lady Raider Nation would, I mean, like, be like so fired up about, and their brand would just go like in Lubbock
That's
and Texas.
amazing.
And so I'm hopeful that that works out. We've got kids
Yeah.
on our roster right now that's going to happen with.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a game changer. What was the other piece you were asking me about? The
Social media. And I think they
social
kind of
media.
go hand in hand.
No doubt. Social media is a beast. I mean, it's a beast, and it's fantastic when it's used the right way. Where my eyes has been opened is how cruel social media can be. And I think that's probably what I want the Lady Raider Nation to understand when they're watching a game or when they're judging a performance. So much like what we were talking about in, those huddles that we were having and how we're trying to get kids, like, it's unreal to me. And I'm naive to it. The comments and the damage that social media can do to players' confidence and self-image and self-worth. Like, it's unreal to me. And I don't think that I really understood it until it happened to my own kids. And to my own personal kids, Bryn and Braden both. Braden, it happened to in high school. I was very unaware of it until he shared it in a classroom. And luckily the teacher told me about it. And I was like, whoa, I had no idea this was a thing. And then even Bryn told me about some things, that I was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, just don't read them, and of course it's not that easy.
Yeah.
Right?
Easier said than done.
Yeah. And even to the point of, and I've had, we've had to have these conversations in our staff meetings with our social media recruiting people, with our sports information director, with anybody that deals with social media. And it's a pain, and these kids can be high maintenance about it, but even posting a picture of them that's not flattering to them, and in basketball, you can post a lot of pictures that are not flattering. I challenge my staff all the time. I'm like, find a picture of me that doesn't have on the sideline that my face is not crazy, because I'm crazy on the sideline. And they're like, you are hard to find a pleasant picture. And I mean, it is what it is. Like, I'm animated, I'm all into it. My face does things that I'm like, always like, and it's not flattering. And so our kids do the same thing. Like, when they're playing, they might be going to the basket and they've got this, well, we see intensity, we see fight, we see whatever. Our kids are like, absolutely not. Please take that down. And I'm going to be on, I can talk about it because it's my own kid, but she would wear me out about some of the pictures that we would post of her. And she has her mom's face, unfortunately. So she does some of the same things, like, all these things. And
she's
so
intense.
There would be a picture that's posted like that has a quarter score. You know how you post the score at the end of the quarter, and you might put an action shot. And after the game, she'd be like, I can't believe that picture's on there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I go back and look at it, and I'm
hyper focused.
Yes. And she's like, oh my God. Well, trying to talk to her as her mom, I'm like going, Bryn, it's not that big a deal. And she's like, Mom, you don't understand the comments that I get, the DMs that I get, like, or whatever. Like, I can't believe I put that picture of you. Like, oh my God, that doesn't, like, just
unbelievable.
Yes. And some of it's even from her friends, and some of it's from people that she doesn't know. And so I'm telling you, this is what it goes into this. And so so every picture that's taken of these kids, they upload it on Open Doors or something like that for us, where they can keep their pictures for them, which is great. Well, what we've done is they upload it, and then our kids go through and mark the ones that they would allow our people to post, just so that I don't have to get those messages on the bus ride home or whatever, of Coach, that picture, blah, 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 or that they are very well aware of what's being posted of them, and they're okay with it.
They've had some element of control in choosing what pictures of them are being posted.
Yes. And it just cuts out so much drama and so much unneeded drama, that we have to deal with. And yes, it's an extra step, but you know what? If it cuts down just a little bit of criticism of them for things that there's no reason for them to be criticized for, then I'm all for it. And I ask our people to do that, and they happily do it, but it is another extra level of effort, but it's just crazy, the things that we have to do. But the social media part of it's here, and I'm super proud of Zuri Sanders is our new social media recruiting person, and she's fantastic. Love that she has been a player, so she gets it. So she's very careful about what she posts and how she posts it, and even comments that you put with it. But the creative content that she's creating to
Yeah.
tell our story is fantastic. I
Yeah.
can't wait for you guys to see it.
That's
But
awesome.
we are continuing to put more and more and more emphasis on that because we got to tell our story to the world to be able to get Lady Raider basketball on the map and to get
Yeah.
those recruits here.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So
Yeah.
many moving pieces and so many so much intentionality is what
Yes.
I'm hearing behind
Yes.
this program. And I think y'all are moving in such a positive and exciting direction. And I'm here for it. I can't wait. And
Thank you. Well,
it's
I
super
can't wait for everybody to
exciting.
see our team this year. I love them and
Yeah.
they're going to be so much fun. So
Yeah.
much fun.
Even the little teasers, like I guess it's Zuri who's putting them out there on practices that y'all have had and just what's
Yes.
to come. It's so exciting. And
Yes.
I'm so excited for it.
It'll be a great time. It's going to be a great season. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coach Gerlich, anything else that you want people, fans to know, resources maybe that people don't know about that you guys have in regards to mental health and wellness?
Yeah. I would say so many things. I mean, I just want them to know that we're working super hard at bringing Lady Raider basketball back to the forefront, back to prominence. And, it's my goal to sell out the USA this
Yeah.
year. In a regular season game, we do a great job with our kids game and whatever, but I want to sell out because they're all coming to see Lady Raider
Yeah.
basketball and that we're going to win a championship. I would say to know that social media, I want them all to follow us and they're going to get all the great content and the great scoop and everything, but also to just be careful, what they say about us and what they say
Yeah.
about our girls. Those girls are my girls.
Yeah.
Those are my girls, but they're
Don't
also
poke the
someone's,
bear.
that's right. That's right. And they're also someone's kid
Yeah.
and someone's daughter. And, to just think twice before you just start blasting somebody for missing a layup or missing a free throw. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Um, and then also just to know that wherever they are in their mental health, to know that like if the Lady Raiders can somehow help them and inspire them or get them over the hump, like that's why we're here,
Yeah.
and that there's always somebody out there that can help you. You're never alone, and just to reach out. I mean, I just think it's so important these days, and that we can all do this. We are all in this together, and we can all do this. So I'm so thankful for people like you that are trying to get that message out, and also that are diving into Lady Raider basketball and want to know what's going on, because we're super proud of it and we're working really hard, and some great things are going to come of it.
Yeah. Beautifully said. I cannot wait to see you guys. I know the fans are super excited, and I am so grateful again, Coach Gerlich, for your time and willingness to come talk about mental health and stuff that y'all are doing behind the scenes that we as fans have no idea about. And I think it gives us a lot of insight, and there's a humbleness and appreciation that we can have about what y'all are doing, and y'all are doing things with intentionality to have that person first mindset to grow these players into champions, and to win
Yes.
championships.
Yes. Yes, that's
So,
exactly right. You've said it so well. So thank you, Sydney, so much for having me. This
yeah.
is fantastic. Yep, I just love it. And I appreciate your support so much because I see you. I see you on Twitter. I see you on social media, at the games, all that stuff. So thank you
Yeah.
so much for your support.
Of course. Of course. Want to give a big thank you to head coach of Lady Raider basketball, Krista Gerlich, again for joining us today on the Ball and Crane and talking about mental health and a lot of behind the scenes things that we as fans don't see and aren't aware of. Stay tuned if you like what you saw today and enjoyed the interview with Krista Gerlich. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, all the things, and we'll see you very soon with another great guest on the Ball and Crane.